Hello, gorgeous souls. This is Dequilin. Usually what I used to say when I started my videos, but I wanted to share something that I'm working on based on an audio that I listened to this morning from by Neville Goddard. And if you know me, you know that I call Neville Goddard my spiritual guru, my spiritual teacher, and all of that. He's long passed. I think he passed in 1972. But he is an amazing, or was an amazing, still is an amazing teacher of. They call it New Thought. So I'm gonna say New Thought, but that's really not the word that I'm looking for. But in the audio this morning, so I've been doing a study since August of last year about time and space, okay? And so this is not what I want to talk about, but what he talked about sort of brought all of my teachings together in that one study that I've been doing for a while now. So I'm really excited and still excited about that because I'm going to teach that one day, but right now I'm still applying it to my life and learning and trying to perfect it for me first before I actually come on and teach. But something that he said in the audio that I listened to this morning, he said, the world is yourself pushed out. And so in my brain started working, and I was thinking, my world is myself pushed out. My world is myself pushed out. And that reminded me of a quote that Dr. Joe Dispenza, he says a lot. He says, your personality creates your personal reality. I'm going to say that one more time. Your personality creates your personal reality. Okay? And you know that your personal reality is really your everyday life experiences. And so as I was listening to that this morning, what I processed is that whatever we see in the world is a version of who we are inwardly. And when I say in the world, I mean in your world, in your everyday life, but also out there. Like there are some things that we see that's a reflection of who we are inwardly. So the question that I had to ask myself this morning is, who is my current world reflecting? Who is my current world reflecting? And I was trying not to read it how I wrote it. So let me read it how I wrote it. Who is my current world reflecting? Is it reflecting my worldly perspective or ego self, or is it reflecting my true self? Okay? Because again, he said the world is yourself pushed out. And I had to break that word down, self. You know, we've been talking about the true self, and then last night in a work hour, where we identified the ego and how we have those egoic thoughts, and how sometimes we allow those egoic thoughts to kind of dictate and predict our lives and create our worlds. And so for me, having to ask myself that question, is my world reflecting the ego self, or is it reflecting the true self? Because if my world is myself pushed out, then what self is reflecting back to me? What self am I seeing right now? And that was kind of deep for me, because there are a couple of areas of my life that I'm looking and I'm like, oh yeah, that was ego that created that, ego that made that rather. And now that it's in my face, now my true self has to step in and deal with that. So my answer was honestly that again, my ego self was reflecting in a particular area. And again, what we talked about last night, and the reason why I could identify that is because it was rooted in limitation. And one of the things about limitation is that limitation is not real. God is abundant, the world is abundant, you are abundant, I am abundant. Any type of lack is by way of perception, not by way of reality. And so I wanted to just come on today, and I want you to think about your world, your life. That's, we just gonna stick right there. Not the outer world, not the country, not the political climate and all of those things. Not any of those things, because when we focus on that, what we're focusing on is the ego perspective. Okay, what I'm talking about is your world right now, what your experiences are right now. What self is your world reflecting? Because if the world is yourself pushed out, which self are you seeing, or which self is looking back at you? Is it the egoic self that is, again, we talked about last night, rooted in limitation, separation, that's self-sabotaging, that's constantly in fear and in conflict and all of that? Is that what you're seeing in your life every day? Or is it abundance? Or is it oneness? Or is it joy and peace and love and power and prosperity and all things God? So I wanted to share that with you, because that was a moment for me that I was so like, I had to rewind it and come back and listen to it, rewind it, come back and listen to it. And now I was like, you know what? I need to write this out for myself. So that was a journal exercise that I did today. And I want to say this, because if you look at your life and say, dang, my world is a reflection of my ego self. Remember what I said last night? That you don't have to judge yourself harshly. This is a time for you to stand as the observer, but also give yourself grace and make a new decision. You can decide, I no longer desire my ego self to lead my life. And again, it's going to take the undoing and all of those things that we've been working on here inside of Inner Work Community to shed away the ego identity. And the more we shed away the ego identity and the true self identity rise, then you're going to see your world around you shift and change in miraculous ways. This is where manifestation exists and is birthed from. This is where your magic and your miracles and all things that you desire to create, it exists through your true self-awareness. So I hope that you receive this message with love, because I'm sending it to you with love. I send so many blessings to you. I wish you well in your journey. I really wish you well in your journey. And I know that for all of us, all things are possible. All things are possible. All good things, all God things, all prosperous things, all abundant things, all healthy, happy, whole things are possible for each and every one of us. So let's get into seeing ourselves as God created us, which is whole, perfect, complete, abundant, prosperous, powerful. Take care.